All right, good day, everyone. I'm the Reverend Charles M. Taylor, City Minister for Better Living. And we are continuing with our Better Living conversations. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing the board president for the University Center for Better Living. I've had the honor of working with him for the last several years in this capacity. And today we're going to talk about the state of UTC, where we are today amidst this pandemic, and what the future is looking like for our community. So, Mr. David Cole, I want to say welcome and thank you for saying yes to this interview.
It's my pleasure, Reverend Charles. Good day to you.
Thank you. So, David, to get started, just share a little bit about yourself and your role at UTC, and maybe even give a little history, a little backdrop on your involvement with our church.
Absolutely. Well, I've been going to UTC. This is my 28th year. My then mother-in-law, Doreen Powell, turned Dr. Michelle, many of you may know, and I over to the church right before we moved to our current facility. Actually, my first service was the last service at the old site, and I never turned back. Been involved with the church. Used to work in youth empowerment back in my days as a recruiter for FIU. Have more recently worked on some committees that the previous board was working in as we were transitioning to your role as senior minister. And then for the last 3.5 years, it's been my pleasure to serve the board and be its president. So my professional background is I've been working in higher education. Next year will be 30 years. And I've worked in administration. I've worked in enrollment management. I worked in incident command. So, part of what I've been doing is helping other people achieve and succeed in their goals.
Okay, great. So just share a little bit more. And I know your background is in education and working in the community in that capacity. Just share a little bit more about how has your background allowed you to help UTC on the spirit of change in the government?
Sure. As I mentioned before, I've worked in higher ed administration. I spent a number of years at FIU, and I've been at DeVry University, Miami-Dade most recently, and I'm currently back at FIU, just started in January. In each of those roles, I've had an operational capacity. So I've been an incident commander. I've had to deal with everything from us moving to digital platforms to our downtime during hurricane seasons, working with students and their parents and other stakeholders as we transition. So, I have a reputation in my professional life as being somewhat of a firefighter. So, I think that experience in trying to keep an organization going and growing during a time of challenge has been indicative of much of my career. And so I think between that personal experience, professional experience, and the truth that we've been taught at UTC makes me feel like this is an opportunity to serve my church by digging deep into what God has allowed me to experience over the last 30 years.
Okay, great. So we are in the midst of a COVID pandemic, and a lot of our lives have been really disrupted in the last couple of months. In your opinion, how has this challenge affected the church?
Oh, it's affected the church profoundly, and just as it's affected our society. This is unprecedented, and I think we use that term so much it's becoming cliche, but in none of our living memory has the entire society that we've each lived in fact, the world, been slowed down and in some extent shut down the way that it has. That's not to mention the true human impact of the people that have been affected by this virus. I remember when you had your Better Living conversation with Dr. Michelle, and she mentioned that one of the highest impact communities in the country is the zip code in which our church resides and the surrounding zip codes that we serve. And I remember when you were talking to Dr. Audrey and Dr. Joan, and they talked about the psychological impact that is happening. My own younger son, his entire senior year has been turned around. He hasn't been in school in several weeks, and all of the celebrations that the families would want to do, they're not being done. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't know somebody who's been directly impacted health-wise. And so that means that the stress, the emotional toil is on all of our shoulders. And then as a church, we're supposed to meet that particular need. We're supposed to be a place of comfort. We're supposed to be a place of joy. We're supposed to be a safe refuge. And then this particular challenge puts us in a position where we actually can't easily go and see a person, or that they can't come in for that counsel from you face to face. They can't get that hug. And so it's affected not our mission, but it's affected how we execute our mission. And moreover, from an operational standpoint, if you don't have people coming into your facility, if you're not having services on site, it's going to affect the rhythm and flow of what you get to do. So we've had to figure out how to become and maintain a sense of community and service without actually being in physical place. And that's a challenge that many organizations are having a difficult time with. And I like to think that UTC has done a better job than could be expected in some regards. But it is a challenge, and it has changed and challenge who we are and how we decide we're going to show up and demonstrate.
Yes, I totally agree. So what do you see perhaps as our greatest opportunity to learn from this? Because in every crisis, there's opportunity. So what do you see as our greatest opportunity in that?
For us to reimagine how we do church. Reverend Charles, since you've become senior minister, you've been working diligently in improving our reach, our scope, our growth. But I think you've recognized that the 23-year-old of 2020 is not the same as the 23-year-old of 1980. And it goes beyond just social media and whatnot. Our young people live in a different world than we grew up in. And we are maturing in a different world than our elders and ancestors have matured in. And so therefore, we have to figure out ways to do things differently. And one of those things is we've become increasingly dependent and somewhat comfortable with distance communication. And you and I know the truth that nothing will ever take the place from organic human fellowship. Nothing will ever take the place of praying on somebody. Nothing will ever take a place from of a visit. However, there are opportunities for us to teach, to disseminate information, and to grow our community beyond Miami Gardens and surrounding communities that we've decided to take advantage of. So when I look at our services and during this season, the board has stepped up, the entire board has stepped up to support you and support the staff in how we do church. And part of that support is giving some background support of the online service that you and the rest of the platform team are so excellently executing. And what I notice when I'm in the back looking at the chats, when I'm monitoring, is that more and more people who don't even live in the state of Florida, don't even live in the country, are regularly attending our services, are beginning to enroll in our classes. And that means that the word that you're giving and the teaching that our other ministers are giving is so valuable that now people know it's that much more accessible, that they're coming in from Barbados, from Canada, from the state of Illinois, and so on and so forth. And so the opportunity is maintaining that reach while making sure that we never forget our embrace of our local community. And that's a great, great opportunity for us.
It is a great opportunity. And I want to personally thank you and the board for your hard work behind the scenes. And of course, our staff, our hardworking staff. And of course, I want to thank our members who continue to plug in and support the church during this transition that we are making. So thank you. So I want to know personally, on a personal level, what has been some silver linings for you personally that you've gained and worked through this time?
A few things. One of my personal goals in life is to live in line with purpose and live in line with my purpose. And my personal philosophy is we should be of service. And so this is an opportunity for me to be of service. And, you know, I'd shared with the congregation last year that I was unemployed for about 10 months after I left Miami-Dade. And there was a lot of, obviously, financial instability. I have a son getting ready to go to a very expensive college. And I got a mortgage and another son that I'm still supporting in some ways. And so I had to really dig into my faith to know that God is the supply. God is my supply. And know that no matter what external things changed, that I was okay. And, you know, that time down, ironically, in searching for a new job, allowed me to do two things. And the silver lining was become more centered, more calm. It allowed me to prepare myself for this particular other downtime that I didn't know was coming. And it allowed me to strengthen my relationship in a particular way with my son, Akil. And we've always been tight, but I took the time last summer to visit colleges with him, do some things. And what I didn't realize at the time is that he was working through some things and the stress of being a high achieving student and other things going on. And that downtime between jobs allowed me to be present for him in a way that he needed. But again, we didn't know that he was going to need that now. So as he goes through the disappointments of not being able to have the kind of senior milestones that all of us got to have in our senior year, I can be present for him and still serve. So the silver lining is I get to serve. I get to step up in that service. Thank God I am employed and I get to do that from home. I have the type of job that allows me to do that. And I get to be present in the way I need to be as a father for my son. And so, and I'm thanking God that my immediate family has not been directly impacted by this. Again, Michelle, Akil and Khalil's son, she's out there every day serving the community as a physician. So I keep her prayed up and support her in ways that I can because she and many other healthcare providers are putting themselves at risk so that we could be safe. And I feel like the place that I happen to be in now, even though I'm spend most of my time at home in front of the computer Zooming, allows me to be of support in the way that I can. So the silver lining is that God has put me in a place where I feel like I could be of best service for the people around me, including, like you said, our excellent board, the excellent ministry that you lead in our congregation. I love our community. I love the church, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be of service.
Thank you. I want to say thank you. How has UTC worked with the community during this time?
Say again?
How has the UTC worked with the community during this time, now and moving forward?
You know, from the very beginning, at least with my journey at UTC, we basically were saying, we're not the church that gives people fish. We're the church that teaches you how to fish and teaches you the fish in the infinite pool of abundance. And that's wonderful. And I know it's helped me and many other people. But this is a time where people need fish. And I'm so glad that the church, our volunteers, our congregants, our leadership, our ministry has decided to step up in that particular way. So I know you've been meeting regularly with community leaders, local. You've been meeting regularly with our UFBL leadership to think about how we could more immediately and urgently service the community. So we as a church have become a hub of information. We provided referrals and information to people who are in need of everything from food to jobs. I know that you are working on some partnerships right now that will allow us to distribute food through partners that they have food but don't have space. We have space, but we don't have easy access to food sources. And so we're coming together to provide that. One of our board members had thrown out the idea that we should provide direct support to membership through the distribution of the mask. And I was so happy to see that as soon as he made that recommendation, everybody jumped on. Everybody had a recommendation of who we could find and make masks. And not only were we able to distribute masks to any member who needed it, we also were able to partner with local people, right, who are impacted economically to make the masks. So we're able to contribute in some small way to individuals who need income because their income's been interrupted, to provide quality masks that we are all going to need because we're going to be wearing masks for a while. It's going to be like a comic book convention for the next year or so. And so and again, our prayer chaplains, our ministers are doubling their reach out, not just to members. And I want to be clear to anyone listening is that the church has never been insular. Sometimes I think there's a reputation that we're insular or that we are not practical, but we're a practical church. But I think during this season, it's clear that we've reached out even more to people who may not be members of the church or even attendees to the church, to be a source of light, a source of information, and a source of support. And I think that will solidify our continued presence in Miami Gardens and beyond for long after you and I leave the stage.
Amen. Yes. So you mentioned about the mask and perhaps moving into the near and that's the future. We will be wearing masks for a while.
Yes.
And also practicing social distancing. So what else can we expect after the pandemic, as even before and after the pandemic ends? What do you think we can expect, as far as living, going about a day-to-day business and activity?
Sure. Well, with the church, we are currently working, obviously in concert with you, Reverend Charles, on a re-entry plan. And just like our mayors and our governors and our national leadership are looking on how we reopen. And so what I think anybody who's engaging UTC can expect is, first of all, we're always going to operate from principle. And that means that we operate from a space of love. And that means that everything that we do is in a space of making sure that everybody is as healthy and as whole as possible. You can expect over the summer, as we get more information and we get more allowances to re-engage socially, that we will start the process of ultimately returning to on-site services, ultimately returning to on-site classes. But what we're not going to do is abandon the extended reach that we've done digitally. We've been streaming our services for over 15 years, close to 20 years. So that's not new, but doing it as the only option for service has allowed you, Reverend Charles, to find ways to streamline the service and to give the same type of experience, the worship experience, the teaching experience, and the fellowship experience in less time. And I know that you said that you want to take advantage of a stronger service, which maybe will allow us to do other types of things with that time. We will continue to do on-site courses. However, we never did the courses online before. So we're not going to abandon that. That will become a very, very strong option because we have the platform to do that. When we get back, we were going to have to practice social distancing until this pandemic is no longer a present threat. That might mean that our sanctuary is going to be set up differently. We might see chairs spread out differently. We might have different scheduling so that we can accommodate the same amount of people, but not have as many people jammed up in a room. As the pandemic reaches its peak and it gets to its end, and all challenges always do, we will continue to adjust, but we're never going to go back to how things used to be, because you never can go back. No. And so at the end of the day, this has simply accelerated what we knew we were going to do anyway, which is have a more of an online reach, have more online options, look at our scheduling for programming, and think about what kinds of community services we could be doing that we weren't doing before. So on the other end of this, you're going to see a stronger church. You're going to see an even more engaged church. You're going to see new faces that we've been drawing in even as we've been going through this crisis.
Yes, amen. So you have a lot of involvement in the community. So, and you are aware of quite a few resources that perhaps we can tap into for support. So what additional resources, organizations can we tap into for any type of support that we may need, be it mental, emotional, or physical?
Sure. A lot of people sometimes complain about government, and they might complain about our local government, but I can tell you that for my money, Miami-Dade County has done a stand-up job in trying to get in front of this. I think our mayors, including our mayor of Miami Gardens, has had the best intention at heart. They're pushing and pulling in a lot of different ways. But when you look at the websites for Miami-Dade and Broward counties, they have done an extraordinary job in consolidating all of the resources. If you're looking for a job, if you are looking for financial support, if you're trying to get that hard to get unemployment money, if you simply want to know what's going on and how we're going to respond with reopening, or even information about the COVID disease itself, all of that can be found on our county websites, and to a lesser extent on our city websites. As far as nonprofit organizations, they also have been putting information on those websites. And so if you work for any city or county agency, most of the websites for the city and county agencies also port up to the main one. So I work for the state with FIU, and our website has information specific for our organization, but they make sure they have links back to the state and back to the county. And what I've found is, even with UTC, we've been pointing people to those things because that's a really, really good and currently updated site for us to get information. And again, if you need any specific help, you can call the church. You can reach out to us via email or call our main number, and we're going to get you what you need.
So cool. So you mentioned it earlier, but just expand upon it a little bit about how you are incorporating spiritual principles and our teaching into your everyday life at work, with your family. How are our principles and teachings supporting you?
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our principles. Dude, it's been a real stressful 12 months. And when I think about, first of all, understanding that all is well here and now, right? That seems very simple. But the idea that even though I may not see it right now, the good is there. Even though I may not know the answer is there. And so the principle that everything that I need is already here is something that this year has confirmed for me because I had to work it. But then the practice of meditation and being silent to allow the answer to reveal itself versus trying to push answers. I, by nature, am a planner. I'm a hyper planner. And as an administrator, I get paid to plan. And so what I've had to learn how to do is tell the difference between planning, right, and visioning, right, and reconciling visioning, right, which is allowing spirit to inform you of the answer that's already there, and then take that and bake that into a plan versus visualization, which is seeing what you want to see, and then having a pre-packaged plan that you thought of and pushing it through. And it's such a subtle difference that it took me about 2 years, right? Because I started this work with you when I joined the board because we always start our meeting with visioning. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's the same thing. Visioning and visualization are not the same. And those two are not the same as planning. And so it got easier doing that with the church because we're all doing that, right? So I'm always admonished and reminded. Where the principles have helped me the most has been at my day-to-day work to, go to my job. I'm working a job now where we're building a program from scratch and we were just ready to launch. And 3 weeks before our launch, this happened. So we had to delay our launch. So we're going to be launching our program virtually on June 15th. And that meant that all our plans had to be redone. So I got quiet away from my team and did visioning. And it's been challenging. I just got off a Zoom meeting where I'm bringing what has come up to the team and they're asking me where I got it from. And they're not at the place where I can just say, Spirit told me. So I just told them I did research.
I got you. I got you. And I'm so glad you shared that because just yesterday I was meeting with some young people at UTC, and I opened the meeting by talking to them about visioning versus visualization.
Yes.
Because I want them to be grounded in that awareness too. Uh-huh. And exactly what you just said is exactly what I shared with them. So I want to thank you for saying that, and I hope they watch this when it comes on.
I hope so too. It ain't easy.
It is not easy.
Yeah.
As we get ready to close this out, you have any words of encouragement you want to share with our local community and the community at large as we move through this time?
Sure. There's two simple things. They're the most basic truths of all. God is, and you are not alone. And a lot of times we look at these challenges and we ask ourselves why. And it's part of nature. My doctor actually told me that the virus is doing what every other living organism does. It's just trying to live. And unfortunately, that process means that some people are impacted. So I'm not trying to make light of the fact that people have lost jobs. I'm not trying to make light of the fact that people's health has been impacted. But understand that the glory of God and his peace and our overall health and abundance is always present. And we have to see that and believe that. And Charles, you know my story. I've been impacted in major ways over the years and can still find joy that even with loss, God still is. But the other important message is that we're not alone. And at a time when we're physically distant from each other, where we might not even be, we might not even have been able to hug our own mothers on Mother's Day last week, even though they might live local to us. It's important for us to reach out to other people and let them know that we're having a common experience. No matter where you live in the world, we're all having a common experience. And that means that we should have common empathy and use that common empathy, that common love to come together in a spirit of oneness. And we have to remind each other that we're not alone. We have to remind each other that we're here to help. We have to remind each other that no matter what appearances there are, we understand that the good of God is always here, and he's always here now, regardless of what you may be going through. And so I would say to people listening and watching this to be encouraged, to reach out to those people. If you need help, ask for help. And the door will be answered for you if you simply but not.
Amen. That's so true, so true. So for those who don't know, David and I are what we call Trekkies. So David, live long and prosper. All right.
Peace
And
and long life.
yes, yes. And thank you very much for this interview. It's been very insightful, very helpful. And I hope those who are watching and listening will find it very helpful and insightful. And continue to do the great work you're doing in the community and for our church. And again, thank you for your dedication.
And Reverend Charles, thank you for and live long and prosper to you. And thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for what you're doing with the church, with our membership and our community. And please know that I speak for the board when I say that we're here to support you because you've been here to support us in this community. Love you very much, my brother.
Love you too, my brother. All right. Take care.